Hi everyone, this is Mike from Ross Video. Today I'm going to introduce you to a brand new and really exciting feature that we just released with Ultrix version 5.2. This is our Ultriproc license. It comes in two different versions, Ultriproc HDR and Ultriproc 3D LUT. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of installing the license, getting the processor running, and showing you the user interface and all the options that are available with it. So the first thing you need to do is purchase the licensing to be able to apply the Ultriproc processor directly to your Ultrix frame. Similar to other license formats that we have, the license key is applied to the frame itself, and then you can apply those licenses to the individual inputs or outputs you're interested in using. So you can see there's two new features once you've upgraded to 5.2, Ultriproc HDR, Ultriproc 3D LUT. If you have the appropriate license keys and you hit apply, you get a license count. Once that license count is applied, you're allowed to put those licenses on the inputs or the outputs that you're interested in. In my frame, I have a FR2 NS frame, and it has one card, which is the HDX, that is compatible with the Ultriproc feature. So the HDX and the Mod X IO cards are both available to use with this process, but the older cards are not. So the HDX card, once I've applied the license to my license keys, which is done here, I'll notice that there's a new tab up at the top here called Ultriproc. I can click on that, and this allows me to determine the format of the processors themselves, either in UHD or in 3 gig, as well as assign them to the inputs or the outputs. Now in my user interface, I only have one card visible, but if you had more cards in your frame that were compatible with this license feature, you'd see them all show up inside of here. So each card can be set to 3 gig proc or UHD proc, and then the assignment can be inputs or outputs for that card. I'm going to leave it at 3 gig for today and leave my assignment to inputs, and you'll see that I'll be able to apply the HDR proc to one, and I'm going to apply the 3D LUT proc to the other one so we can show you the difference between the two. Now you notice that the inputs that are available are all the even inputs on that card. If I put myself into UHD mode, you'll notice that my count has gone down by half. So only certain inputs or outputs are available with the proc license, and you can check the user guide to see which ones are applied. Now that we've got the license applied to the inputs or outputs that we're interested in, so I'm just going to put this back to 3D LUT, I can move on now to the next step, which is to adjust the parameters and to use the user interface that comes with the Ultriproc license. That can be done by going back to your home page, clicking on the card, and then in the card drop-down list under Views, there's a new drop-down here that's called Ultriproc. And this will tell you which cards have inputs applied to the Ultriproc and what their current status is. So just a bit of an overview of what the user interface looks like. You can see I've got my HDR to SDR conversion up at the top, so I'm detecting SDR in. I'm not going to override that detection, but I would like to override it on the output side and set that to the S-log format. So I'm effectively upconverting or converting the SDR input to an HDR output. I have my proc amp controls, and I also have my conversion type here for the 1D LUT. There's two types, display and scene, and then inside of that I have a couple different options that are available for me for the mapping of the 1D LUT. The next tab is the color correction, where I can adjust the RGB values for gamma, gain, lift, and out. If I take a look at the 3D LUT version of that same proc, you'll notice that all of the user interface is the same except for the bottom, where the conversion type, instead of being a one-dimensional lookup table, you now have a three-dimensional lookup table, or the RGB cube file. Here you have quite a few options of different types of 3D LUT lookup tables that are available to you, ranging from BBC to NBCU. The color correction section remains the same on both of those. And you'll notice that these features are very similar to the features that we have on the Gator Toolbox card available in our OpenGear frames. So that was a quick overview of our new Ultriproc license feature. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a line in the Ross Video community.